Welcome to Hometown Heroes podcast, and I'm Rick Irving with my co-host Mary Staffel, and today we have a guest that is retired Sergeant First Class in the Army, Bradley Adair. So, Brad, welcome to Hometown Heroes.
Hey, thank you for having me.
We're excited to hear some of your stories. You were in the Army, you retired from the Army. Made several deployments, one to Romania, Afghanistan, Iraq, and then you were active duty most of the time, and then you were active duty in the National Guard too, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think in the Guard they call that a technician, don't they?
No, ma'am. It's AGR.
Oh, AGR. That's right.
Either AGR or you're on ADOS.
Yep. AGR.
Okay, and you kind of got the bug early to go in the Army, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I did. Since, like I said, I was raised to go in the military. My grandfather served in Korea, did 20 years. He actually was the NCO for Elvis Presley while he was stationed in Germany. And then my father, of course, joined shortly after I was born. So I kind of was led the right way.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Grand Prairie, Texas. My grandparents had a house there I was raised in. My mother and father had divorced when I was very young. My dad, of course, had gone off to the Army. He was active duty and back in the 82nd Airborne. So I basically would stay in Grand Prairie, Texas and be raised. And then when my father would get married, I would go live with him.
Okay. And then you joined the Army about what age?
So I joined the Army a little late. I goofed off right after high school. So I was 19 when I joined.
You're an old man then. That's at the AV station.
Right. My husband didn't join till he was 32. You got him way beat. Look at how young. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Those were the days, weren't they?
It is hard to believe.
And that's you in Iraq, or?
Yes, sir. That was Iraq. That was in 2004. That was actually in Baghdad.
Okay. And what did you do while you were in the Army? What were some of your jobs?
So at the time I deployed to Iraq, I was an L&O liaison. I was attached to the 3rd Brigade, 1st Cav Division. So we had Iraq, and my job was to go back and forth between BIOP, which is Baghdad International Airport zone where we were residing at. So we became the Route Irish racing team, if you want to call it, running back and forth. Then I got sent up north to Taji, where I ended up taking as an L&O with 4th Brigade, which is the aviation side. Before I came back down, participated in a few exercises, Haifa Street and stuff like that.
How long was that deployment?
That one started in December of 2003 and ended in March 2005.
Okay.
So what is an LNO for folks out there listening that may not know what that is?
So that's a liaison. So basically, you're the go-between whenever somebody needs something. If they need some information passed on, basically making sure everybody's on the same page, because we're hit or miss back then. So if we had somebody coming in, let's say mid-tour, we would make sure that we went and got them from division, brought them down, placed them into the unit they needed to go to. If you had a battle captain that needed to run out to an area, you would basically jump in the gun trucks and run back and forth, making sure they made it to whatever meetings.
You got to see a lot of the countryside then.
I did quite a bit. Yeah, I did. It was mainly because of the people I worked for and worked with. As an LNO, you get tasked out to other units. So we had the 82nd Airborne come in, so we had to work with them. we got sent down with 5th and 10th Group. We worked with 3/4 5th PSYOPs, 4/7 Civil Affairs. So it was a good aspect and a broadening assignment.
And so you were out of Fort Hood whenever you went there?
Yes, sir. I was out of Fort Hood.
Scout? Okay.
First Scout.
And you just you kind of help move people around and information around them.
Yes, sir. It was just a liaison, just basically going back and forth and in between, making sure everybody knew what was going on.
Did you have some battles or anything that you were in, or gunfights or anything?
So we were Assassin's Gate. We were in Haifa Street. So.
Okay. And after you finished in Iraq, you came back to the States, or?
Yes, sir. So I came back to the States at that point, 2005. Then my daughter Callie had passed away in April 2005. She was 7 months, 22 days, passed away from SIDS. I was slotted to do a return deployment, leaving in May. That didn't happen, of course. So at that point, I got sent to Romania. That summer, I did the Romex 05 mission. So we moved into Babadag and Constanța, Romania. Spent some time over there training the Scorpion Brigade. Basically, we trained them to go into Iraq and do what we had been doing.
So that was kind of a staging place for y'all to train some troops that were going into Iraq, huh?
Actually, no. That was the mission, was for us to go over and train with and train the Romanians who were slotted to go into Iraq.
Okay, so they were going in to fight too. I didn't realize that.
Yes, sir. So it was so I went. The time I was with at the time it was the 36th Infantry Division, so the Texas Army National Guard. So I went over with them and 1st Armored Division came down, and like I said, it was a joint training exercise to train up people.
And Mary spent some time in Romania, but since she was in the Air Force, probably a little different situation too.
Well, Romania, though, is not like, there's not a lot of places that you can go when you're military in terms of where they put you, because the Air Force base that we were attached to was out in the middle of nowhere. So we had to have people in Cluj and Targu Mureș, and then we had to come to the middle where the base was out in the boonies, and we had tents, and they had a few buildings, but they didn't have very many buildings. So the tents were out there, and there was no way to so I had to get food brought out there every meal from a local restaurant. So it was a whole different thing, taking care of the folks when you've got, 12 F-16s and all of the people that you need to support 12 F-16s out in the middle of kind of like a field, So but the Romanians really, really wanted to work with the Americans. They were really good about making sure that we had a great relationship with them.
And did y'all stay in the tents, or did you stay in hotels?
Oh, well, the tents were only for the support services. They wouldn't house us out there at all. Only one time I threatened to put one of mine in their barracks that was very, very bear-based. And that was because she wouldn't keep her room clean in the hotels that we had contracted. So she was giving the hotel folks so much trouble. I'm like, if you don't get your stuff together, I will put you out there and they're like, you can't even walk to go get food. It was like, there ain't nothing out there.
So, because your job was a lot of coordinating everything, getting the hotels set up, and then the meals and
and emergency leaves, anything that had to be taken care of in the HR side. And if people got in trouble, then the commander and I took care of that, and we had some of that happen. Because I'm sure, Bradley, as you experienced, everything is very inexpensive, or it was at the time in Romania.
Well, yeah, so it was very inexpensive, and
yeah, very cheap, and lots of alcohol available.
yes.
And when you put that together with maintainers, it tends to be a lot of work for the first sergeant.
A lot of you didn't have any discipline problems, did you? I mean, bad discipline problems.
We had a couple.
Okay.
We had a couple. Yeah. Yeah. You take care of them and you get the stuff done. But that's part of when we put people in foreign countries. That's kind of, they don't always understand you. We're trained, and I'm sure, Brad, you experienced the same thing. You got told what the customs and everything else in the area you were going are, right? This is how you act. This is what you do. Like when I was in Kuwait, they were very clear about, especially as a female, well, that was a whole different world coming from over here, going on to the Middle East as a female is a whole different world. But, you always go through all your cultural awareness training for wherever you're going. And sometimes some of our folks didn't respect and I'm sure you experience the same thing. Sometimes people don't respect the rules of the country that you're in.
Yes. Many times.
So,
yes.
In those Muslim countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, would you have alcohol there or no alcohol? Or
we were supposed to not have alcohol. Matter of fact, Budweiser had sent us some Budweiser non-alcoholic beers, but some of the other countries we operated with did have alcohol.
The Italians, for example.
Australians.
We had at Jabber in Kuwait, we had Polish and Italian we were with, and somehow they always had wine. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Now, none of our people could drink it. You got caught, you were in a whole lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
It was definitely different. But they had in Qatar, they had sin stores. I think that's what they call them, but sin shops or something like that, where you could, if you were a civilian like stationed there, then you could get your sin card and you could go down and you could buy stuff. You could buy bacon and all the kind of things that, I don't know. I don't think they had that in Afghanistan and Iraq, from what I understand.
No,
Yeah.
We did not. We had contractors, and of course, contractors had alcohol. Wasn't sure where they're getting it. I remember they sold alcohol inside the PXs there in Kuwait, so they probably had their buddies bring up some. But it was a big no-no for us. Yeah.
Kuwait and anywhere else that I was in the Middle East, it was a big no-no.
You and your dad, y'all were over in Afghanistan at the same time?
Yes, sir. We were in Afghanistan at the same time. Okay. We missed each other in Iraq by 4 days because the Air Force, of course, their planes break and they can't make a hard time. So we missed each other by 4 days. But my deployment in 2016, 2017, I was an advisor, and I had all of the 505 zone and the 215 Corps down in Helmand province of Afghanistan. My dad was teaching the commandos up in the Camp Moorhead. And so whenever I would go up to do my reports, the rotator only goes once a week. So I would AMR myself over, go see him, or he would meet me in either Bagram or Ijkaya.
So you got to see him quite often there.
I did, actually. So he spent 6 years after he retired over there as a contractor. And I spent more time in that 1 year deployment with him than I had the previous, 10 years, it felt like.
And this is at Fort Carson.
Yeah, this is Fort Carson. This was, Actually, no, this would have been 2003, when we missed each other going in and out. I believe he was back for he came back for something at the time, and I was getting ready to roll over, and so we agreed to meet up, and he had it all lined up. But like I said, Air Force Bird had broke and moved the timeline.
And what are you doing here?
So I spent, this was on the ICH-47 Delta Chinook helicopter. I was with the Republic of Singapore Air Force. We were the U.S. Army Flight Train Detachment, so we were part of the USASAC, which is a Security Assistance Command. Basically, actually, almost like before the Train and Advise Brigades were set up. Our job was an FMS program, Foreign Military Sales. We were stationed here in Texas. We were full-time. We trained and worked with the Republic of Singapore Air Force. They had 6 ICH-47 Delta helicopters. And so I got to do some crew duties as a non-rated crew member. We're doing ramp checks, load checks, packs, hauls, airspace surveillance. So it was a great time. That was Romania, 2005. That would have been in Babadag at the time. I am the soldier laying down with the old pig, the M60. We still had M60s in the guard back then. And this would have been was with Bravo Company, 1st of the 112th Armor at the time.
Somebody took a Texas flag.
We did. We were Texas soldiers, and so anytime we go anywhere, we bring our flag. We got to represent.
Very cool.
So on the left side, you have this was Afghanistan 2016. This was on a KLE, key leader engagement. So I was the logistics NCOIC for like I said, for Helmand Province as advisor. And then I was working with the time with he's Captain Hammett, Ray Hammett, who now just got promoted last week to Lieutenant Colonel.
Okay.
That's my father and I at my reclass graduation. When I went to Singapore, they needed somebody to learn fuels. So I went to the 92 Fox course out of Fort Lee, Virginia. That was at my dad's retirement in 2010 at Fort Carson, Colorado. He stood up the TSD, Tactical Support Detachment for 10 Special Forces Group.
And I think you just went to Special Forces reunion or something with him, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I went the ball. So anybody who's prior or ever been with 10th group can come to the ball. I was assigned to 10th group. I did a little bit of time with them in Afghanistan and then also in Iraq.
Because y'all look pretty good. I don't have a picture of you, but y'all dressed up pretty well for that one.
Yes, sir. This was from 2011 to 2016. I was a member of the North Texas Honor Guard. I was one of the NCOs, and my wife had snuck this picture. I was doing a funeral as the presenter of the flag, and that's probably by far the hardest job I've ever had in the military. Is when you're having to give a loved one the flag. You're never quite sure what they're going to do. You got to maintain your bearing at all times. I've had people that they didn't know what to do, and they just sat there and holding the flag out for 5 minutes before somebody will come by and take it from me, because you cannot just drop it in somebody's lap. They have to take it from you.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, that's, I was going to ask you if it ever gets any easier. There's been a funeral or two that I've gone to for roll call members, and I go in uniform. And if it's not one that was set up with military honors, the cemetery will do the presentation from the people that work there.
Yes.
And if I'm there in uniform, they ask me to do it. And boy, that is, I can't imagine that ever gets any easier, but that is an incredibly emotional thing to do.
It is. So I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Red River 44. Red River 44 was a Chinook out of Grand Prairie, Texas that went down in Iraq. Those were my buddies on board. I had the honor of being a part of Luke Mason's funeral there in Springtown, Texas. I was off in the background. My job was to be, they did a flyover. We had, because Chinooks were deployed, so we had the Texas Army National Guard bring in their Apache helicopters. So I was basically the ATC guy on the ground calling them in. And that was the first funeral that I'd ever been asked to be part of.
Over in Grand Prairie at that unit, do they have a little memorial right outside the building there?
We do.
We
have it's a very good size memorial. Each bench has a name on it. Matter of fact, I went out there last Memorial Day with Bell, and that's where we were all allowed to do, talk about who we remember. And so I spoke about the members of Red River 44.
Yeah, because I've been out there.
Red River 44?
Red River 44, yes, ma'am.
Red River 44. And you said Luke Mason.
Yes, ma'am. Called him Big Country.
So he was a big guy.
He was.
Oh, because I knew somebody from Waco with that name, and he joined the Army, and he was an officer.
Oh, no, ma'am. He was a maintenance.
He was a maintenance? Wow. That's hard.
It was.
How long did you do that, do the funerals?
So I did that as a volunteer basis from 2011 to 2016 when I deployed.
You did quite a few funerals then.
I did. Yes, sir.
Because I go take pictures at funerals at the National Cemetery, and it amazes me how far those people come. The Air Force, they come from Dice. And I mean, they make that trip from Abilene every day. And they don't just do the National Cemetery, but they do other funerals around the area. I think the Army was coming out of Fort Hood.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure where the Navy comes from.
JRB Fort Worth.
Okay.
Yeah, and they used to be able to come. We used to have a real a good team of them at the 301st when they had the funding for it. But once they lost the funding for it, then they couldn't go support anymore. So that's why they have to come from Abilene, because without the funding, they can't get the people on orders to come out to. But before, when they actually had an E7 master sergeant out there running it full time as an AGR, and they had people that were on orders almost because Rick, I mean, we go to a lot of funerals at DFW National and other places, but they were real busy. But when they lost the funding, they couldn't continue to support it, which is sad, because then yes, you've got to get them out of Abilene. Yep.
What's this? Is this from whenever you were in Romania, or is this something else?
No, sir. That's from Romania. So the November 2005 Soldiers Magazine, they had a 2-page spread there on Romex, was the name of the mission. And somebody had snapped this picture of me wearing some unauthorized gear. Caught a lot of flack for it. I had to buy a case of beer for the unit, but I remember this day vividly. So one of my buddies, he's actually plays Santa Claus now here in the local area, Randall Hurd, he's retired. His little brother Russell Hurd was there with me. He was my squad leader, and we were doing an assault on a village. And I remember vividly telling him, "Hey, wait here, I'll be back." I went off of his shoulder. I went through a window into the house, cleared it, Didn't realize that somebody had snuck around outside and basically had shot him and another member of my team. They were laying out the window, and I said, coming out, and I started throwing weapons out, the rubber ducks, the fake weapons. But all I heard was, somebody scream, and the rifle had landed between his legs.
So you caught a little bit of flack for that article, huh?
Oh, I did, yeah. So anytime your picture is in a paper, magazine, you bought beer. So I bought beer quite often, actually. So
Oh no.
I was in this one. I was in the Fort Worth Star Telegram, and then I was on Fox 4 News during Hurricane Katrina.
Mm.
And I'd asked Sean Rabb, hey, like, I have no problem with you being on my search and rescue boat, seeing what we're doing. Just please don't put me on. And he did. My grandmother had saw it back here and started making phone calls, trying to find out if I was okay because what she had saw on TV.
What during Katrina? What was your duty there? What were you doing?
I was doing search and rescue. I was on a John boat. We were going door to door, checking houses, making sure they're clear. We actually, I don't know if you remember, but one of the jails or prisons, what they had done is they had tagged everybody with ankle monitors, and basically they were getting flooded out so fast they couldn't move them, so they released a bunch of people. We were at a house and we located 2 of those individuals who were in there. Luckily, without incident, told them who we were. They saw the weapons. We saw them with ankle monitors trying to cut them off. We took them, gave them back to the authorities. Everything was going fine. We had discovered a couple of bodies here and there. And then
Was that New Orleans?
New Orleans, yes, sir.
Okay.
We worked with the Air Force, the Navy, the Army. We had no problem with anybody, and the Coast Guard, of all people, they had to come in and do a rescue. We had our John boat, and before we could move it, their rotor wash had capsized us into that water. So me and one of my soldiers got quarantined for the next 3 weeks. We sat outside in a medical tent. They set up a little tent and put us in quarantine because we got these red spots. Basically look like chicken pox. They called it the Cajun crabs, I believe is what they were calling it.
Oh my.
Wow.
I didn't know what to call it. So from there, luckily, JRB had a C-130 coming in to NAS New Orleans. They threw us on that. We went to Gulfport, Mississippi, and then we RTB back here to JRB Fort Worth.
Phew.
So,
Just because you fell in the water and got there,
yeah.
huh?
That water was bad because you got everything in that water.
I bet it was nasty.
It was.
Did you do some other missions like that?
Yes, sir. So Hurricane Harvey, my Chinook unit, we had got called up. We flew down to Hurricane Harvey. We went through San Antonio, then we went into Victoria, down to Houston, Galveston, Beaumont area. One of the coolest things we did though was we landed our Chinook helicopter in a Walmart parking lot, and it was like everybody just couldn't believe this helicopter's landing. They brought some PJs down, some rescue pararescue from, I want to say Alaska is where these guys were from. So they brought their little we call the slick boats. They brought their little dinghies. So we loaded them up, internally loaded, took them down and dropped them off in Beaumont. But during the process of starting up the aircraft, getting ready to take off from Walmart, prior to that, they're like, "Hey, Adair, hey, can you run inside and grab something for us? Can you grab food, whatever? While we're loading up, can you run and grab some drinks?" So I ran inside. I didn't even take off all my gear. I just took my helmet off, ran inside, and immediately everybody just stopped. Like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "I was just gonna get a case of water and some food from McDonald's for my guys." McDonald's refused to let me pay. They just took a bag and started stacking stuff in it, handed it to me, turned around, and people started handing me cases of of water and Gatorade. So we put them on the aircraft, and of course we distributed them once we got out. But we go to fire up the aircraft, and Sergeant First Class Donnie Leach, he's working the door on the right side of the aircraft. He's tethered in with his monkey tail, and there's probably in her 70s, this old lady. She's the only vehicle parked in the parking lot where we had landed into the area because they had quarantined it off. And this old lady looking straight at us with her cart. She put stuff in her car, and she pushed her cart towards the aircraft. So we're starting to turn blades. Donnie runs out of the aircraft. He's still monkey tailed in. And so, of course, that janks him back, and he gets flown back. But luckily, one of the deputies there, he grabs the cart and assist her, and we take off.
Wow.
Where was this?
This was in San Antonio in 2017. This was at NGAT, which is the National Guard Association of Texas. It's huge. Every year they have a big meeting. Come down. Of course, you got to be in your your dress uniforms. They have vendors that come down, guest speakers. It's a really good event for members of NGAT.
And this is a raffle that the Equestrians for Frontline, they're building a building, and you built this weapon for this raffle.
Yes. So I've been a member with Equines for Frontlines for about a year and a half. It's they're part of the PATH program. It's horse therapy. They basically have Monday night just for veterans. We come in, we learn stuff about the horses. If you feel comfortable, you can do whatever you want with the horses, like to a certain extent. They teach you to ride. They'll teach you how to handle the horses, do a lot of the groundwork. You do have to do classes. You learn about the horses. You always have a class. They provide a meal for us. Matter of fact, I went to the Chisholm Challenge there in Fort Worth this past year. I took second place in my division for veterans, which was awesome. So Barbara and Ron Epps run it out of their house, and they've just opened up their house and the barns and the stalls to us without want, without need. So they're building a brand new building out of their pockets. So we did Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association 2330, which is out of Parker County, did a donation to them for some money to help offset the cost. We had a lady, she's a veteran of Air Force, and her husband's an Army veteran. They go there also. She built this quilt, and so I built a AR for them to ravel off. I believe it's October 4th, I believe, is the day they're going to actually do this. But yeah, you can see the AR. I had it engraved by one of my buddies with the Equines for Frontlines logo.
And they do the equestrian for PTS, don't they? Is that primarily who it helps?
It does. So I had a TBI and a PTSD. And so it does. It helps you because you can go out there. And for some reason, horses are just a magnificent animal. They have a way of sensing kind of what's going on. They pick up on all your cues, even because you don't think about it. But even when you're sitting on a horse, if you twitch, the horse knows because they feel everything that you're doing. So you just kind of build this bond. And when you're out there, everything kind of just mellows out, and you calm down. It helped me personally with a lot of my struggles and stuff that I was going through.
And that just being around the horses can just have a calming effect sometimes.
It does.
I'm not into yoga, but I went to a deal where they did this yoga and had these horses just wandering around, around us and everything. But it does have a calming effect as long as you're broken and they're not trying to buck you off. So
yeah, it's amazing. you're out there, everything's just calm. It's just you and the horse. And then you hear Sebastian, the donkey, in the background start yelling at you. So.
Yeah, and they've been, and we'll have to figure it out when we go back to Birchmond in August, but they've been coming every month, and I always see people visiting with them before and after the lunch, because they stay. Like they don't pack up and leave after we start the luncheon. They stay throughout the luncheon and then visit with people afterwards as they're leaving, because some people don't get there early enough to visit with them before. So they're there every month and able to tell folks that are interested that might need their services. They're able to share that with them. And it's really kind of cool because we've had that opportunity to do that while we've been at Willow Park with all the space we had.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, Barbara is very knowledgeable about the PATH program. She did it in Waco before moving up here. She's great with the horses. She's great with the veterans. Her husband, Ron, is the same way. He just retired from being a veterinarian. So not only do they know the aspect about the horses, but medically he's also there to be able to do anything that needs to be done for the horses.
And this is under the umbrella of Project Healing Heroes, isn't it? Is that
yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir.
And are they a chapter of that? Is that how that works?
No, so I believe that the headquarters was based out of the Waco area where they started this up, and then she was able to take her certifications and come up here. So she's just a branch, but I believe there's 3 or 4 in the DFW area. This is the only one I know of west of Fort Worth. Everything else I believe is like up towards McKinney. I believe there might be something up north of Justin.
Okay. And besides doing the project, Project Healing Heroes, you also have been a volunteer fireman.
Yes, sir. I was a volunteer fireman down in Johnson County. I was at Station 83. I promoted up to lieutenant down there while I was still stationed out in Grand Prairie. I was living in Burleson, and I kind of felt like, with everything going on, I need to give back as much as I can to my communities. So what better way to do it than to help out?
And now you work for Bell Helicopter?
Yes, sir. I'm the obsolescence manager for the UMB 75 program.
And what kind of helicopter is that?
So it's not a helicopter. It's a tilt rotor.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. So everybody's calling it a baby Osprey. But its goal and intent is to assist with the mission of the Black Hawk helicopter.
Is it smaller than the Osprey?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's just a little bit bigger than it has a bigger footprint than the Black Hawk, but not by much. We basically can do what the Black Hawk can do, but twice as far, twice as fast.
And are they building them at Hearst, or are they building them in Amarillo, or where are they building them?
Well, they'll be built in Amarillo, sir.
Okay. And then you're involved too with the veterans out there at Bell Helicopter, correct?
Yes, sir. So we have an ERG, which is Employee Resource Group, Vortex. So it's a veteran organization within Bell. Basically, it helps. It's a knowledge of wealth, or a wealth of knowledge of personnel who can help people with, hey, I got to file a claim. I've never done a claim with the DV. I've never done anything with the Veterans Affairs. Then people have questions about, hey, how do I do this military related? And somebody in there knows somebody who can help you. So my job is I am the community outreach chair. So I reach out to the community, find events that would like us to participate, or people that would come in and speak to us about their organizations and what they do to help other people. One of my members, Jay Hernandez, he's ex-Air Force. He's actually the Veteran CEO magazine, which is online. It's in a lot of colleges now. Puts that out there to help veterans who are transitioning it's got a lot of knowledge from personnel who were in the military and now they're CEOs or executives of companies, and they're giving what they know and, kind of to help people who are going to be transitioning or trying to figure out what to do, how to utilize your benefits to your advantage, how to help out with businesses and stuff.
And that's a very important aspect of leaving the military, is to have as much knowledge as you can. And
Yes,
I think Mary was real involved at helping people kind of maneuver from the military to being in civilian life as a veteran. So,
Well, yeah, Rick, so people that know me know I have my military service part 1 and part 2, right? Active duty 78 to 86, and then I finished up with my last 15 years as a reservist, though I was on orders a lot, or as a civilian air reserve technician. But when I got out in 86, and probably was the same for you when you got out, Rick, there were no transition programs. There was nobody explaining benefits to you, nobody telling you, you didn't get any of that. You didn't get any, I worked my first couple of years in the post office in the military at Chanute Air Force Base. I probably could have went to work for the post office when I got off active duty, but I didn't know anything about any of that kind of stuff. So I think that we do such a better job today between what the military provides and then organizations like what you're talking about, Brad, that you're within the workplace, even helping the veterans that are working there. So they're more likely to stay working there because they know that they have that support.
Yes. You'd be surprised how many soldiers, even today, when I was transitioning out, they had no idea. Nobody sits down there. You go to all these classes, but it's basically butts in the seats. When you see you put people in seats.
Checking a box.
Yep, check the box. Okay, yep, you're good. I've got so many people. My father, 28 years, Special Forces Sergeant Major, over 500 static line jumps. He had an incident back in the 80s where he was doing an Aussie out of a Black Hawk on a 100-foot rope. D-ring snapped and he fell head first, about 60 feet. Was dead. They brought him back. They made the helicopter medevac and took him off. Even with all that stuff on his record, when he got out, 30% VA. Because nobody helps anybody write anything. So since he came here, Tarrant County, the VSO here for Tarrant County, Damon Crowley, amazing.
Yeah.
He sat down and he actually worked with my father, was able to get all the medical records back and submitted things properly. And he was able to get his rating to, what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we've got so many of those here in the Fort Worth area for sure. Between the Tarrant County and even, we've got folks that we're connected with within even different parts of Tarrant County that do pieces of that. Texas Veterans Network. There's just so many right here locally that have that knowledge that you're talking about that can help people. So we always tell them, if you think you've got something, a claim, don't go paying an attorney, because I know so many people that go pay an attorney. Yep. And they don't have to do that. There are people out there like that. And these guys over there off of over there by the VA clinic here in Fort Worth off Campus 5 out there, they are very helpful. Very helpful. Tarrant County, very, very helpful. Yes. Fort Worth, they have people that the community, the county, the city, everybody. There are so many resources. Please don't pay somebody unless that's your last resort.
And that's why it's so important for what you do at Bell Helicopter, because, Mary and I, we're out with all these veterans organizations, and a lot of people that we know are retired, they're out and about. So they see all these veterans organizations and see where all the help is. But whenever you get into an industry like Bell, or I worked at Lockheed, we just go to work. We don't know about all these things.
Right.
And so with you being able to do kind of like you did in Iraq, take that information and give it to them, so they can get plugged in, because otherwise, 20 years from now, they'll say, gosh, I should have filed that VA claim back then. I just didn't know what to do. So,
yeah. So my wife was an Air Force veteran, and she, basically she never filed at all when she got out because, I was only in Germany and I didn't really do much. And I was like, no, like you have this, you have that. So we'll get it filed. She had a lot of personnel when she was working at LM. Same thing. Like a lot of people don't know. And like I said, knowledge is power, but you can't hold on to that power. You've got to distribute it. So you tell everybody. That's, she's like, you're just a busybody. You got to be involved with everything. And, you always want to talk to people. I'm like, well, I want to educate people and help them because there's so many people out there who don't have the resources. They don't have the know-how, or they are secluded to themselves. They don't want to reach out for help. And that's the other thing. A lot of soldiers feel like if they ask for help, it's a sign of weakness.
Right.
Basically the same way. Basically the same way. And then, I had my accident where, I had a TBI. I ended up getting a hip replacement before I was 30 years old. I had to fight to come back on active duty. And it was like, at that point I realized, it's not weakness reaching out for help. It's bettering yourself.
Yeah, you have to advocate for yourself. And you have to find those people. To Rick's point, there are a lot of them out there that say, oh, well, I don't want to be that person, because we all know folks that, we all know that there are some folks that have a disability rating that maybe is not really, maybe it's something that they made up a little story about or whatever the case might be. But you should look out for yourself and make sure that everything gets put in your medical records, and make sure that even if you get a 0 rating on something, it's done, because down the road a 0 can go up. But if you don't get rated on it and you don't get it in your medical records, then you're just stuck.
And the other thing is, a lot of people don't realize this, that, when I was in, they didn't have the medical records, right? I didn't go see the hospital. For example, when I was in Hurricane Katrina, I got quarantined. The Army wasn't there with medical staff. I got put on the USS Iwo Jima, the Gator freighter. They had the medical ship there. They're the ones who looked at us and said, oh, yeah, hey, guys, you're getting quarantined, blah, blah, blah. We didn't get any paperwork at the time. It's 20 years later. They don't still have all that stuff on record on the ship. So you can get buddy statements, somebody who can vouch for you saying, hey, yeah, I was there. And so I had to reach out to my first sergeant, who ended up retiring as a major. And he wrote an entire buddy statement for me as far as what conditions were down there, what I was doing, and what happened to me. And I was able to submit that, and they accepted it.
Yeah.
And when you get old like I am, those guys that you served with that were maybe a little bit older, all those guys are dead. And so I don't have anybody I can go get a statement for or from, because I always worked where my medical records were, but I always worked with doctors. And so if I had a problem, I just tell the doctor. He wouldn't write it in my medical records.
Exactly. So, same thing with medics. A lot of times guys don't want to go to the clinic, so they'll go to their team medic, or they'll go to the medic at the unit. Like, hey, this is what's going on. What should I do? Oh, well, hey, let's do RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. You'll be good. And then that sprained ankle, later on becomes, hey, you actually cracked your ankle, you didn't just sprain it, but you never got seen.
Yeah, so you just keep up the good fight, and get all the information you can to those people you work with, those veterans out there at Bell, and help them kind of maneuver. It's like a minefield, so you got to say, hey, don't step over there, you need to step over here. So
yes, sir.
Because if they aren't watching out for themselves, then they're going to lose. But if they have somebody like you that's an advocate, it's going to help them, and just encourage them. Hey, go ahead and talk to these people.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think, that goes back to even more than just, VA, but think about the education assistants. How many of them know that they have Hazelwood if they're a Texas veteran. They just did a change recently to the post 9/11 GI Bill. I can't remember what it is. I know I looked it up when Ryan Parrott reached out to me about his benefits, and I saw an article come out about an extension to some benefits that we had discussed before, and he lost. And I texted him when I saw it, and I said, hey, now's the time to go check into this, because they just made an extension and that might qualify you. So I don't know all the details of your service, but go look into it.
The other thing is
education stuff. There's all kinds of benefits out there that our military, our veterans need to pay attention to.
The VA also can help you get certifications for different things. Both of my daughters right now are enrolled in college. They're going on the Chapter 35. So in the state of Texas, we have the Hazelwood.
Right.
Also, if you get 100%, all of your dependents, including your spouse, get 100. They get 100% with college. So they get the Chapter 35. So it's not just, okay, well, I only have 30 months, so I need to divide it up. No, they all get the same exact thing. You would get 36 months to any college in the state of Texas they want to go to, as long as they meet the criteria for entry.
Yeah, so that Chapter 35 is a whole other program, right? That's for spouse survivors and dependents.
Also, so if you get 100%, then the spouses and dependents get that also.
Right. Yeah. So that's something to look into that some people will qualify for. And again, you have to look at the age of the children, right? Some of our folks aren't going to have kids that are in that 18 to 26 age group, because that's even where Hazelwood falls into, is, there's an age limit on them all.
Yes.
So you just have to look into all those programs and share what you know.
And Mary, the Hazelwood, it only goes back so far to 2000 or something, or
no? Well, so post 9/11 GI Bill, that one came out in 2000. I want to say 2009. Hazelwood then changed. So up until the time that post 9/11, which is Chapter 33, up till the point that Chapter 33 came around, Hazelwood could only be used by the veteran. And once the GI Bill went where you could transfer it to dependent children and spouses, then Hazelwood said, okay, you can transfer to dependent children, not spouses. Children has to be used at a Texas public university. And you get 150 hours. So the veteran gets 150 hours. If one kid uses 75, then the other one can use 75. They just can't use them at the same time. So whether it's a veteran or the children, only one person at a time can use that benefit. But you have to have exhausted your VA benefits. That's another piece of the puzzle. So there's all kinds of things that go into that. But the VA reps at the colleges in Texas are amazing. And they will, if you are a spouse or a child or a veteran, you need to go see those VA reps at those colleges, because they know all the programs and they know what you're eligible for.
And so it covers all veterans, not just from a certain time period, but all veterans?
No, Hazelwood, you just have to be a Texas. You have to have a 214 that shows you entered in the state of Texas and you exited in the state of Texas. So for like Brad, you're a native Texan.
Yes, ma'am.
So your 214 from any time that you got one would show all of that. For me, I enlisted in Chicago in 78 and got out in 86. So I wouldn't qualify, even though I moved to Texas in 86. Mm-hmm. I qualified when I went on I got my first 214 as a reservist, because then my place of entry was Texas, my place of exit was Texas, and my home record was Texas. So I qualified.
You don't have to have entry and exit. You can enter another state, and if you get out in Texas, that DD-14, as long as it says Texas on it, then that's sufficient.
You want to check that, because that wasn't the way that the rules were. You had to have entered in the state of Texas. because you had to be a Texas, because they only offered it to native Texans originally. Only offered it. So they made a lot of changes when post 9/11 came around. But yeah, you have to show you entered and exited in the state of Texas.
Because in 2023, that's what they were pushing out there at Fort Bliss at the out processing center. They were putting that information out. So I'll double check on that.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of information out there.
There is.
And somebody that's very knowledgeable is our friend Mallory Morris, and she works for the Texas Veterans Commission. Is that who she works for?
She
works the land board.
Land board. Mm-hmm.
But she is a wealth of information, and that might be somebody that you need to get. Well, I'll get you in contact with Mallory if you haven't met her, because she'd be a real asset to your group out there.
Okay. So another organization I'm involved with is called TVO, Texas Veterans Outdoors. And so I brought them in to speak. They are more geared towards personnel who want to do outdoorsy activities, hunting, fishing, kayaking, all that stuff. So I urge any veteran in the area to Google TVO, Texas Veterans Outdoor. They're statewide. J.R. Williams, he's a retired Navy chief, and he's
put together a good program, and they do a lot of stuff. I mean,
yes. Yep.
I'll get an email that says, "Hey, we've got this concert, and we've got so many tickets, or we've got this event to go to, or here's a deer hunt." So, well, Brad, our time's about up, so we've enjoyed having you on to Hometown Heroes, and I look forward to going out and learn more about the equestrian organization.
Yeah, we should go out there, Rick. We should go do a podcast from out there.
We need to do that.
Bring it, because I think that it'd be neat to show people, because sometimes seeing it makes it something that they might want to go do.
The way we could do it, Mary, is we could do it on horseback.
I'm there. I'm game.
We'll come in.
It'll just be a really shaky camera angle.
As fast as those horses can run, we'll just come in and just stop them right at the camera.
I think you're overestimating my abilities on a horse.
I like to see horses. I've just never have been comfortable riding, so maybe I need to go out there and get comfortable riding. So
we should. I think you enjoy it very much.
Yeah,
I bet. Brad, thank you so much for being a guest on Hometown Heroes, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, Mary, that was an interesting conversation, and there's just so much information that is out there. And whenever I got out of the Army, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have all the information that we have today. So
yeah, for sure. And there are, that equine therapy program, there's one of our friends from the Cowtown Warriors, Bart, he's also with another one that just started up, New Hope, that's doing the same thing in the Argyle. And so they're out of Argyle, but they're doing it in this area too. So there clearly is something to that for folks that could use that kind of equine therapy. So yeah, Rick, we need to go get you on a horse.
I'll bring my American Hat Company hat.
There you go. Do it.
And July is kind of a month whenever we can kind of take a breath. Most organizations don't have their board meetings. I think you all are going to have a board meeting, though.
We're going to have our annual meeting.
Kind of retreat kind of deal.
Planning meeting is what we're going to have. Right.
And then no roll call.
Nope. Beers and Betty's.
Okay.
We'll have Beers and Betty's on the 19th.
Let's see. let's just go through here. We've got the gun raffle, the 20 guns in 20 minutes, and they're going to do that at the August roll call.
Right.
It's a great opportunity to have a chance at winning a gun, and not just one chance, but if they pull your name, they put your ticket back in, so you have another chance. And several people at the last one won, more than one gun. So that's coming up. And there's this QR code that you can scan, or you can go to roll-call.org and find out some more information about that. And Mary was just talking about Beers and Betties. This is going to be July the 19th at Perry's Pizzeria and Tap House, and that's out toward the Alliance Airport. So,
yeah, 35 and Heritage Trace, that area right up there, and it's just always fun. So it's not for anything else, but we don't get to see each other, and we'll go get together and have fun and play game. The Bettys like to play games. But, and then while we're there, the restaurant is going to donate 20% of every tab to roll call. So,
and then the Beers and Betties, the Bettys, they have usually a raffle and bring some great door prizes.
Yeah. And if you just want to go and get your picture made with them, you can go get your picture taken with them. They like to, folks that don't know, they dress up in the 40s and 50s garb, and you just go and have a good time.
Absolutely.
Get out of the house.
And that's 1 to 4 on the 19th. You can find more information about that at roll-call.org. July 31st is the second annual Patriot Roundup in the Fort Worth Stocks Yards at the Cowtown Coliseum. That's going to be a great night. And the Air Power Foundation is the sponsor of this. And last year it was a great event. A lot of great people there, and they have a good program. And then the Skyball is October the 25th, also an Air Power Foundation. This is the big fundraiser for the foundation. And if you haven't been, you need to go, because it's just an awesome evening. You get to dress up. There'll be some Medal of Honor recipients. There'll be military. There'll be new recruits taking the oath of enlistment. There'll be
dancing.
There'll be a band out there, and so that's a great night. And go to airpowerfoundation.org to find out more about that. And roll call, you can sponsor a veteran, $20 a month. You just sign up, and it just comes right out of your bank account or goes to your credit card. This helps defray the cost of the meals, and then helps roll call do a lot of their outreach that they do, because you do a lot of things besides just have a luncheon, don't you, Mary?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We try to get the vets out as much as we can and get them involved in things. So that's always the goal, to get them out of the house, get them busy.
And, we talk a lot about roll call and about the magic of it, because you get these veterans, and some of them never have gone out. They never have gone with other veterans, but once they come, it's like they get hooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then not only the veterans, but a lot of times the families get involved, because we have several family members whose father or husband has passed away, and roll call was such an important part of their life that their children come, or their widowers come, and just continue to be a part of it. So it's just a great time.
It's a family.
It is.
We're just one big family.
It is. And we have a meetup every Saturday at the Black Rifle Coffee Company in Benbrook. It starts at 11. It's over about 12:30 or 1. And you just kind of come and hang out with some other veterans and some other of our supporters. Al Chetwin is usually there. Doug Peterson and his wife are there a lot. I try to go when I can. So
yeah. And they do one up at the one at Alliance too, or I should say Heritage Trace.
Yeah.
Alliance is a little further north, but
yeah.
Heritage Trace over there, they do one there.
Yeah, if you're in that area up there on Saturdays. So there's just a lot of opportunities out there for veterans to get together. So
there are, and that's the key, is just get people out of the house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, it's been a good podcast today, and we're going to leave y'all with Don Graves singing God Bless America. This was on his 100th birthday on May the 3rd this year. And, I've had people that have heard him sing, and they say, for a guy that old, he sure does have a strong voice, but he sings a lot. So we're going to let Don Graves finish our program, and we'll see y'all next week on Hometown Heroes. Iwo Jima survivor Don Graves singing God Bless America on his 100th birthday.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, why we're born. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, our home, sweet home.
Thank you for being a part of Hometown Heroes podcast. Visit our YouTube channel and subscribe today. We look forward to seeing you next week on Hometown Heroes, the voice of heroes, the voice for heroes.